Hello, tile friends! Welcome back to another Tile Money podcast. My name is Luke Miller, your host, and it is my privilege and honor to be the host of this podcast. I'm excited to be here today. We've got a great discussion for you with Dan Kasman out of New Jersey. Dan is the owner of Casco Tile. He's been at it about 5 years now. We're going to talk about his journey. It's still pretty fresh in his mind. It's still, current events here. And so I think this is going to be a really great discussion for any of you people starting a business or thinking about starting a business, or even some of you have been in it a while, because I've been getting to know Dan inside the Tile Money Mastermind recently for the last year or so. And before that, he was a friend of mine as well, getting to know him for a while now. And he is on fire. He's really got a good business, growing a great business, working with Porcelain Panels, custom tile, sets his prices right. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about communication skills, all that good stuff. Just before we bring him on, I just wanted to give a shout out to Andy Morrison over at Business Up AI. And if you are in need of marketing, CRM, or want to do paid or free marketing, if you need assistance with any of that, reach out to Andy. The link will be wherever you're watching or listening to this. Also, if you need a website, check out happytileguy.com. Happytileguy.com is the place to go for tile contractor websites. I think Dan has both a Happy Tile Guy website, and he's a member of the Tile Money Mastermind working with Andy. So we're going to talk to him about that as well. All right, without further ado, let's bring Dan up to the stage. What's up, Dan?
Hey, Luke. How you doing, man?
Doing good, brother. You?
I'm doing great.
Good. Well,
Excited to be here. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm excited to have you. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. You've got a great head on your shoulders, and from what I've seen and gotten to know, you've built an incredible business out there in New Jersey, and really running. Hit the ground running. And 5 years in, I would say, you're doing really good from my viewpoint anyway. I want to be like Dan for sure.
Oh, that means a lot, man. Thank you. But frankly, I kind of mentioned this earlier. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. I really wouldn't be. Well, I can get into just kind of, how the journey started, and if that's kind of what we want to talk about.
Yeah, take us from the top. How did you get into tile? I think I forgot to mention you were in the union, right, out there before you started your business. So yeah. Tell us about that, and then kind of your transition into being an owner of a business.
Awesome. Okay, so let me think. So I've been doing construction my whole life. I mean, I can remember being a little kid, and my parents got me this little race car toolbox set, and it was one of the best / worst things they did, because I started taking everything apart, running around the house. And then my grandparents would always have me fix little things throughout their house. And one of my first jobs was pulling wire for my dad's, one of my friend's fathers, who was an electrician. Mm-hmm. So I've just always been around the trades. I had never done tile until I was probably 21, 22 is about the time that I found tile and did it for the first time for somebody. Mm-hmm. And that's just kind of how it started, Before that, I did go to school. After high school, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And one of my best friends said, "Oh, I'm going to school to get an associate's in electronic engineering." And I was like, "I'll do that too, I guess," mm-hmm. And because everything says, go to continue your education after high school. So I did that. And frankly, I got a job in there, and I was in an office, and I lasted all of about 6 to 8 months. I can't sit in an office all day. I can't. Sure. It just doesn't work for me. Yeah. Got back into the trades, and like I said, we kind of I was working with my father at the time, and we kind of slowed down. And one of his friends was like, "Hey, I need some help on this job." He had a tile company. I went and worked for him, and kind of just stayed. And I worked with that man for about 5 years. I just fell in love with tile. He ended up, like I said, got me into the union. And then I was a part of the New York City Local 7 Tile Union I was a union member for about 3 to 4 years, I believe. And then COVID hit. And before that happened, I'd been talking to this man about how, I really just want to start my own thing. just go on my own and start my own company. And he would ask me to wait until he retired in a couple years because I was like his kind of go-to guy on the job.
Sure.
And I was, Glenn, of course, you've been helping me out so much over these past few years. You really helped me get my feet underneath me again. Got me to the union, right, which is awesome. And so, of course, I'll wait. And then COVID happened, and at that point in time, I was working at what's called the American Dream Mall here in New Jersey, which is the biggest mall in the nation. I'm pretty sure it's just the nation now, but I remember before it shut down, shortly before the COVID shut down the job, I had found Tile Money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh, what a podcast about tile. And then I started listening and I just became like obsessed. Like it's all I would listen to. I wouldn't listen to music. I'd be grouting walls and doing silicone and things of that nature, just with my earbuds in, listening to that all day, every day. I think I've listened to every single episode at least once. I have some saved to re-listen to. And through that, I then found out about like all the different Facebook groups, right? And so then I just started to really deep dive tile. That's what I found out about the TCNA, the NTCA, and all these things. I found out about certified tile installers, all these things I had no idea about. I was just, in the union doing what was taught to me and installing tile like that, right? And as the more I learned about these things, I learned like the technical side of my brain was really starting to get activated and satisfied, I guess you could say. Like I love how technical tile is to install properly. And through that, like through listening to Tile Money, I started to gain the confidence. Like I can start my own business, like I can do this. I learned about numbers and learned about, marketing, how to just like put boots to the pavement when you get started, and just go out and go to the tile stores and meet people, bring them a box of donuts,
Yeah.
And it kind of, it's funny how things happen sometimes where, like I said, COVID hit. It was, it was March of 2020. Our job got shut down. I was not allowed to go work there anymore. And I frankly, I was getting that was a stipend for like $600 on top of unemployment. And I was like, look, I'm at this age, I will never get to experience something like this again. Let me enjoy it. Right. And I did for like a couple months. And I got to the point where I was just like, I can't sit still. It doesn't, right. I need to do something here. Yeah. And I was like, you know what, this is the perfect opportunity for me to try to start my own thing.
Yeah.
So I went and I think I got some business cards made up, and I went to, I paid $75 on Vistaprint and got, I don't know, 100, 200 cards made. And I started going around to different tile shops and doing exactly that, where I would go in and I'd talk to them. Hey, I'm starting a company. These are my thoughts and beliefs. I want to do it like this. This is what I cherish. This is how I like want to hold myself. And I don't know if anybody was in business during that period of time, I remember, but what we thought was going to be a massive slowdown from COVID turned into a giant boom.
Yeah.
Right. And it was just jobs were being opportunities were being like thrown at me almost. Maybe that's not the right word. Maybe not thrown at me, but enough to keep me moving and keep me busy.
Yeah.
And I was able to get my name out there a little bit. I then hired, my little brother started to come and work with me, and then he started to really, get to know and love tile. And it was just he and I for the first few years. I got myself a website, happytileguy.com, and I tried to just do all the things other people I viewed as successful in business. I tried to emulate that instead of trying to just recreate the wheel.
Sure.
Right. Because something I always hear is business and installing tile are not the same thing. Right. By no means. They're like totally different professions. People go to college to learn business, right? And just because you can install tile well does not mean you're a good business owner. And that took me, even though that was my mindset in the beginning, it still took me years. I'm still learning so much every day. So in the beginning, we were able to keep busy. That boom really helped us keep moving, keep the bills paid, started to develop some overhead. And then there was actually, let me think, it was 2 winters ago, is when the COVID boom actually started to slow down a little bit. And all of a sudden, it's like my phone just stopped ringing, because I wasn't doing any marketing. From people I speak to who were who had businesses around for a lot longer than mine said that that's kind of what it used to be like before COVID. Was like you had to work to get your leads. You had to market, you had to make phone calls, you had to build like influencer relationships and do all these things. And if your phone rang, you better pick it up immediately. If not, they're calling the next person, you know. And people didn't want to wait around months for projects because who wants to really do that? So that winter, I can remember, let's see, like I said, it was 2 winters ago. I actually threw my back out. I had a disc injury. And it was so bad that my chiropractor told me like all I was allowed to do was go on 3 20-minute walks a day. I was couch ridden for like a month and a half, 2 months. And I'm a very active person. So that was kind of like torturous for me, but things kind of work serendipitously sometimes where like I got injured, the jobs, like my phone wasn't ringing and we didn't have any jobs lined up. So it's not like I was leaving clients or people left in the dust. We were just kind of sitting there. Luckily I was able to keep the bills paid and everything. But I took that as I didn't sit around and not do anything every day. I went to business school. Like I found other podcasts and just, I was reading so many books and I just sat there just all day, every day. And I read and listened and tried to learn because I did not want that to happen again. I want to learn how to, keep the leads coming, keep jobs moving and get my numbers right and all these different things. And that's why, I hired my first like marketing company. And, the thing about marketing companies is that you hire them and typically it takes a few months. It's not like all of a sudden you get your phone starts ringing when you start doing ads. You have to, there's like a 2 to 3 month lag, but then as long as you work with a good company, you're keeping up to date, things start moving in. And then from there, after a couple of months, like I said, it took a couple months for it to start flowing again. I think March, what would that be? It's 2025. So that would be March of 2023. It started to pick up and we were able to keep moving again. And we haven't slowed down since. Or at least we've been able to keep busy since. And that kind of brings us to where we are now, where, like I said, you mentioned earlier, I am also a member of Business Up AI with, you and Andy. I think it is such a great value for all of the services that are combined. Like when you really start looking into what people charge, if you want to hire a marketing company, if you want to have good software, if you want to have a good CRM, hey, if you want to be a part of a mastermind that meets every single week, all of those things cost a lot of money. If you want to have a one-on-one business meeting with a one-on-one meeting with someone who's a business professional on a weekly basis or whatever you need it, that's a lot of money. And when you can, and like what Andy's offering is a package deal for all those things for tile companies. I'm not trying to make this sound like an ad. Like I'm just trying to, this is my thought process going into it, I just, and I tell, it's funny, I tell other people about like the whole package that I have with them and other people want to sign up, but they're like, they're in other trades. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but unfortunately, like it's kind of a tile only thing. Frankly, people are really excited about what he's got to offer. But that's kind of where we are now. Like I'm at the point where I'm trying to niche down, right, and just offer, grow the business by offering less. And that I've found I'm trying to push towards porcelain slabs with that. I think that's really where I'm trying to push the company right now.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for giving us that overview. Quite the journey. I definitely want to dig into some of the porcelain slabs and some of the other nuggets in there. I kind of want to just rewind a little bit because it's not every day that I get to talk to somebody that was in the union for a handful of years and things like that. It's a couple of things you struck me. It was New York City union. Were you working in Manhattan or anything, or just it was?
Yeah.
What was that like? Like, what were those projects like?
Oh my gosh. So it's like super cool. I do have to say, it's wild some of the things that they accomplish over there. So Local 7 is a mega local. So it actually covers New York and New Jersey. They combined like 3, I forget how many locals were combined to create a mega local. So it's, yes, I was working in all 5 boroughs. In fact, the first few years I was in the union, I was just with the same company. And uh, we had a contract to redo all of the bathrooms in the police precincts in New York City. So
Hmm.
I was in all five boroughs bouncing around. Sometimes my drive in was an hour, sometimes it was two. The drive home, was there was some 3 hour drive home sometimes, especially
Wow.
around the holidays, or if we were really out like in Queens or something. And I live in New Jersey. For those that don't know, those are like opposite ends. You have to drive through
Yeah.
Manhattan to get through those things, and it's just
Yeah.
uh,
Wow.
traffic's wild. But the projects, I mean, the organization and scale of some of these things, like when you're working with skyscrapers, and they're doing these massive mud jobs across these floors, it's just really cool to see 15 journeymen installing mud and just slinging mud like it's nobody's business. You walk in the next day, it's all perfect, flat.
Right.
You
Right.
know, you, I can tell you there was some jobs I was on where it was the first time I ever got like weekend overtime, which I mean, it's great money in the union. I'll be honest,
Yeah.
it's crazy, but when I say all I did all day was mix mud for these men. That's all I did. 'Cause I was not an installer in the union. I was what's called a finisher,
Hmm.
which means I grouted, I caulked, I mixed, I did the cuts, I did all that grunt work essentially.
Hmm.
Um, and I would tons, just yards of mud, just mixing sand, cement, water with a hoe, and just all day, every blisters on my hands,
Yeah.
and just wheelbarrows, bringing wheelbarrows of this stuff to people.
Hmm.
It's really
Hmm.
cool. It is a really cool thing to see, and be a part of. Just crews of guys on different floors, and you're running between them, and it's exhilarating. It's fun to be a part of.
I bet. I bet. I,
Hmm.
I worked on one project in Manhattan. Well, I didn't. I was only there for like I don't know 2 days, but it
Hmm.
was a union job. But I wasn't. I don't know how it all worked out. But I was just kind of like subcontracted because I lived in Brooklyn for two years or something.
Oh,
But
okay.
I just got hired to like help these guys out, and it was like a smaller thing, just a smaller crew. But I just imagine like trying to work with the parking and trying to unload your
Oh, yeah.
tools and get them up elevators,
Uh,
and it's like you probably spent a day just setting up tools on some of these projects or more.
there's so much downtime, like service elevators. Like the one job I'm thinking of specifically, there was only like one or two service elevators, and every trade on every floor is using it.
Mm, wow.
I've been paid to stand for 3 hours, like
Wow.
just waiting for this elevator. And sometimes it would go down, and you're bringing material up by hand, like 5 floors, right?
Oh my goodness.
Um, as far as parking, like yeah, you take the train in a lot of times. Like if I'm working in the middle of Manhattan, most of the time I might take the train, and it's not necessarily worth it to pay $60 to park. you
Hmm.
know
Hmm.
it just depends, right? So like every job is a little different. With the police precinct specifically, we were fortunate where they would give us some parking in their lots when they felt like it. But
Sure.
it's a totally different animal going from that. And then like I had done some residential before I really started getting into like the big stuff in New York City, but not a ton. So
Hmm.
like when I started my own company, I went back to residential. Like that's what like I enjoy more of the keep it clean, take your time, like attention to detail, that style of work. And don't get me wrong, there's some of that in the union as well, but it's just every company's different, every project's different. And the ones that more of the projects I was a part of was kind of get it installed fast. How many
Hmm.
square feet are you producing? It's about numbers.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not to say that uh, there's just different there's different types of work, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's a lot of projects that were on were kind of like get them in, and I got a taste of the quality stuff in the union, but it's very hard to really become a part of those crews because they're very very tight knit, and
Hmm.
the companies keep those guys, and they just they move from job to job, and to get in with them is a very very difficult thing.
Interesting.
Um,
What's the
yeah.
education like? You mentioned like you learned about the TCNA and the MTCA after kind of listening to Tile Money or after going out on your own.
Mhm.
What kind of education are they
So
providing?
I did not. I kind of got in without having to go to the school.
Oh,
There is a
okay.
school that most, like when you go through the apprenticeship program, there's like a 5 year long program that you have to work through the school, and like your job is to go to the school every day, and they teach you how to install tile, how to grout, how to do all these different things. Um, I had taken the test. The way you go about getting into the union is you apply for an apprenticeship,
Hmm.
and you have to go, and there's like once or twice a year they hold this test. You have to go at some ungodly hour in the morning, get into the city, and then you have to take this test. The better you score on the test, the quicker you get into the school. I think it's irrelevant. I got through the test. I think over a year later, I finally got a phone call randomly one day, like, "Hey, we're ready for you to come and join the apprenticeship program." Basically, and they told me all about it. I was like, I kind of already got in. I was
Hmm.
fortunate where just the way the person I was working for had gotten a contract to be for these police precincts, right? And we were
Hmm.
we were doing them, and I was like his key person, but I wasn't in the union. And he was able to get me a book essentially.
Got it.
He was
All
able to
right.
get me that. So I can't actually talk to the way that
Sure. All right.
they teach the standards,
You
but
kind
I
of
know
got it.
they're big on standards and everything.
You kind of got a boost there. Kind of
Yeah, I
skipped
got
a
very
step.
fortunate. I got
All right.
lucky.
All
It
right.
doesn't happen often. It really
Sure.
doesn't. I got very lucky with that. Yeah.
Sure. All right. Understood. All right. Very cool. Well, thanks for digging into that a little bit with me. So what's been you kind of referenced it earlier. I was going to say like what's been the hardest, part of being a business owner? You said mainly been like keeping the leads coming in. Like you were riding that COVID wave, right? Like you
Hmm.
were just riding that wave and that momentum, and then it slowed down. And um, was that kind of what you would agree is the hardest part about this whole journey in the last 5 years, or?
It's that's a it's a tough question. What's the hardest part? So yeah, learning. I would say yeah, definitely learning how to keep leads flowing is a hard thing, but I think the mindset shift
Mm,
of going from okay, like I want to be the best possible tile installer there is, which is that's my mindset, right? I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that.
yeah.
That do tile, there's a lot of ego involved in it, but just realizing and like acknowledging that I don't know everything, and that like there's better ways to do it, and then also realizing I guess the way I was doing it, we're talking about like business wise here, was like not the best way, and then having to like humble myself and go, okay, let me do what these people are saying. And what I mean by that is kind of like the numbers, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I used to think, and now I don't really want to get into too many specifics because like it really matters about where you live and your overhead, and there's a lot of variability with what every company needs to charge per day to be
Hmm.
profitable,
Hmm.
right? And I'll say, like, I know, for instance, like if you want to make 500, if you want to make $100,000 a year, you need to charge roughly about $500 a day if you are going to work between 200, 220 working days in a year. It's
Hmm.
roughly
Hmm.
about $500. Just
Sure.
but so I used to think, okay, I'm just going to charge $500 because I want to make 100 grand for the year, right? If I'm
Yeah.
working in the union, I'm making around that. I want to make at least that
Yeah.
by myself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I started. I used to just think, okay, how many days does it take for me to do this job? And I'm going to charge $500 a day. And I wouldn't at that when I first started, I didn't even think about material. Like I
Sure.
was
Yeah.
just like, it wasn't even a thought. I was like, I'll just grab some thin set. Oh, I'll just grab the waterproof material. No big deal. Oh
Yeah.
wait, it's how much money? And
Yeah.
um,
Been there.
but yeah, right. Like I didn't think, I didn't know what overhead was. I didn't think I
Hmm.
had overhead in the beginning. But everybody has overhead.
Hmm.
In fact, so really learning the numbers was difficult for me, like
Hmm.
learning and then also being okay with saying, oh, it's going to be, $2,500 for that little tiny floor. Yes, I
Yeah.
understand it's 30 square feet, but it takes me the same amount of time to go set all that stuff up, do the layout. It only, sure, if it was 30 feet or 50 feet, that extra 20 feet, it only takes me an extra hour to install that, if that, so
Yeah. Yeah.
like that's kind of where my mind's at with everything. But um I would say wrapping my head around the numbers kind of, and still to this day, like it's still something that I need to get better at and like kind of really sit down, because it's, once again, like I said, I loathe sitting in the office. I loathe sitting at a desk. It's just not
Sure.
my strong suit. If you can't tell, I'm a talker. I like to go out and be social and network and things of that nature. That's my strong
Yeah.
suit.
Yeah.
Um, So I would say the hardest part for me was, yeah, learning numbers, then learning about like, and just keeping leads coming, especially now that it's gotten back to like what quote unquote like normal times where you have to actually work for leads and things.
Hmm.
Um, but that has been some of the more difficult part. But then it's also like learning to delegate and like who, not how, and like being able to like let go of the reins and like let my brother, for instance, run it, like be the lead installer on a job while I go and sit in the office and do these number things or foster relationships with other people and things of that
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people listening to this can relate to, not wanting to, we're hands-on people, we're craftsmen.
Hmm.
And so sitting behind a computer is difficult, for a lot of us.
Hmm.
Still for me, it is as well.
Yeah.
But it's something we got to work on for sure to be the
Hmm.
business owner. Um, so about a year ago, I don't know, thereabouts, you mentioned you really wanted to get into panels, and so you've been chasing that. Tell me how that's gone, what you've learned, where you're at with that right now.
Hmm. So I kind of did the math. I was, what's the word I'm looking for? I was kind of uh I don't want to say pushed, but like coerced into like getting into it a little bit more by a friend of mine who's been doing it for a few years. So he kind of
Mhm.
proved the math to me, I guess you could say. But
Sure. Yeah.
um, I just, like I said, I want to grow the business by shrinking down and offering less, because that's what when you listen and you start going into like different business schools or just reading different business books, is what a lot of them say. Like if you try to be a jack of all trades,
Hmm.
it's hard to remember a jack of all trades. But if you are like the shower guy, people
Hmm.
remember the shower guy, and so and I kind of did the numbers and found out that with the same number of people, if we can keep busy replacing showers with panels, like we could almost triple our annual revenue.
Hmm.
Almost, not quite, but like almost triple our annual revenue with the same number of people.
Wow.
And I'm once again by just doing shower replacements with panels. Reason being is because you could do it a little bit faster than you would with other tile. You're not grouting. You can, yeah, and you're still taking your time, but you can go in and you can kind of replace a shower in like a week with these slabs.
Yeah.
And not many people are doing it, so you can stand apart, right? It helps you separate yourself. Um, and in my head, it's also, yes, they're difficult and you need proper training. You need to
Hmm.
know how to move them, how to cut them, how to store them, all these different things, how to install them properly. Your substrates need to be, I mean, spot on, perfect.
Hmm.
But if you think about it, I can teach somebody much faster how to cut. How wide is the panel? How tall is it? Where do the holes go?
Hmm.
Maybe if we're talking about showers here, so you cut around a curb, um, and how to waterproof a shower, how to properly prep and waterproof a shower. That's a little less complicated than teaching somebody to do we'll say marble herringbone curbless shower,
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like that takes years for me for me to be able to confidently leave somebody on a job and go, this is what we need: a curbless marble herringbone, and know that they're going to know, okay, I need to make sure my subfloor has a better deflection. I need to make sure, like I can't use my tile cutter. I got to go use either like a little IQ saw or a wet saw to cut this tile.
Right.
Oh, I got to know how to lay out herringbone. How do
Hmm.
we make that a curbless shower? How do we waterproof up the walls going right? Like there's just so much more that you need to know. Um, and not to mention how long that takes, right? Just to
Right.
install that kind of like that's a job we did not that long ago. That's why I'm using that as an
Sure.
example.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember in the middle of that job, I was talking to my friend who is the one that's kind of talking to me about slabs. We've been talking about them for years before I actually decided to pull the trigger and get into it. Um, and he's like, "Dude, I feel bad for you right now." Is what he says. That's what he says. Like I like having to deal
Yeah.
with all that small tile. Like it just takes forever.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, he's just been he's been on slab doing nothing but slabs for so long that's just his mindset on it. Like I just got done doing a Zellage tile shower.
Hmm.
It's fun. I still enjoy doing all these other types of tiles. They're still
Sure.
fun to do. It's still
Yeah.
interesting. It still satisfies the like artist in me to do all
Hmm.
that stuff. But from a business standpoint, I think it's
Hmm.
just easier to expand by it's easier for me to train somebody to do that, versus all the other ins and outs. And if we can get in and out of a house quicker,
Hmm.
it's just a little bit easier for me to expand the business. And not that I'm trying to get huge, but um, I have a certain vision for where I want to be. And I think that's like the quickest route for me to get there.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think like you as well. I think that it is a hurdle to learn, certain aspects of panels. Moving them can be difficult.
Hmm.
There's definitely some things to learn, but I think overall the learning curve is probably actually a lot quicker for just about anybody. I mean,
Hmm.
if if you can find a strong person, that can help you move a panel, um, that person could probably learn that how to do that because it's very, you're basically doing the same thing,
Hmm.
instead of all the types of tile, all the types of mosaic, all everything.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and the beauty of it, I don't know if this is how it is where you're at, but there's not that many people doing it, and so I think the price per square foot, is a lot higher because all of a sudden,
Hmm.
I mean, and you can explain, hey, I've got $5,000 worth of tools, whatever it is,
Yeah.
um, things of this nature. So how's it going? Like, how many jobs under your belt? I mean, have you sold? Has it been a success? I mean, what's?
So it's still slow for us. We've
Mhm,
only done, I think we have done two. Casco Tile has done two panel showers now.
mhm, mhm,
And well, we'll say one panel bathroom. So you have some on the floor as well, but one bathroom, one shower. Um, one of those being a steam shower, a
mhm.
beautiful steam shower. Um, and I love it. It's so much fun to work because it's a chance to, yeah, it's like slow down. Like I need to measure that wall 3 times.
Sure.
Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna sit and I'm going to mark that slab and make sure my all of my marks are spot on and take my time cutting.
Mhm,
The
mhm.
install goes pretty quick. It's just spread some thin stuff on the wall, carefully bring the slab up to wherever it is. But
Yeah.
the measuring and fabrication process, you need to take your time and slow down so that way you don't mess it up and waste $1,000 panel, right?
Yeah.
Um, so we've been really enjoying it. All of my, now I have marketing, I have a whole marketing team, right?
Mhm.
And so I've been able to use those two projects though to create some content.
Yeah.
Now I have
Nice.
the content that I can use to market them more. So we're at the stage right now where I'm starting to just get some more leads on them.
Mhm.
I've got, let me think, I've got 3 or 4 jobs now that are prospects, we'll say,
Mhm.
people that are interested in having us do slab showers for them. The thing is,
Awesome.
people don't know what they don't know,
Sure. Yeah.
right? So you kind of, like you said, there's not a lot of people doing them, but guess what? When you become the person in the area that's known for them, if you're the first one doing it, they're going to be they're getting popular.
Yeah.
I've seen them in Floor and Decor.
Mhm.
Someone told me they're in Lowe's. I heard that, and not around here. Maybe I haven't seen it, but I've heard that
Mhm.
Lowe's is starting to carry these things.
Mhm.
So that just means the general public is going to see them more, and so they're coming whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean
Yeah.
everyone can or should get into them, but they are
Mhm.
going to be around. Uh, so I'm just trying to, in my area, I would like to be known as the slab guy. I
Yeah.
want to let all the designers in the area know. That's all
Yes.
part of
Yeah.
building an influencer network, right? Is
Yeah.
um, I would like to let all the local designers know, hey, I know you guys know what these things are because you're all up to date on this stuff. And when
Yeah.
you find a job where you want to install them, I want to be the person you call for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's
That's
where we are.
awesome. Yep. I love it. And it's going to be a snowball effect, Dan. I mean, it's going to
Yeah.
pay off. What you're doing is going to be awesome for you. I'm stoked for you.
Hmm.
I like the designer aspect too. I'm going to put together a campaign, on top of the campaign we already have going for designers, but now I have access to like almost 50 panels that are locally stocked, like stock. We don't
Nice.
have to
That's
order
awesome.
them. So, 50 different colors. So I think that would be a good campaign because I've been doing my research down here, and the problem is typically they don't stock these panels. They're stocking the 2 cm or 3 cm
Mm,
porcelain, but
yeah.
that's fabric. I don't want to mess
That's a
with that.
slab. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's actually a concrete, it's a granite slab or
and
something.
then it's more expensive than granite or
Hmm.
quartz or anything. So I don't know. But yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity there. I think that's fantastic. How many? I forgot to ask, like, how many people working with you? How many people on your team?
Yeah, so as of right now, it's myself, my brother, and then we have an apprentice as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the 3 of us installing. I have a bookkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually now have my younger sister as our office admin.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, because was it who not how, right?
Mm-hmm.
Delegate
Mm-hmm.
out things that you're not good at. So she's
Yeah.
I'm I know my strengths, but my weaknesses are definitely office things, and those are her strengths. So
Yeah.
it's been a family business. There's three of us. Two of my siblings and I, and then we have our apprentice. And yeah, I'm just trying to grow and just do it. Like I don't want to grow too fast. That's something I've been kind of like in the back of my head, just like harping on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'd rather take my time and build a solid foundation and know like as we get a little bit bigger that it's gonna just things can be done right from the beginning. I just don't want things to get out of hand too quickly, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That can happen for sure. I love it. I love that you're building a family business and you're starting to delegate. That's the other thing too. We talk about like not wanting to sit on the computer, right? Well, if we all raise our prices to where they should be, I mean, it's great. I think a business owner has to do all the things, so that we understand what's going into it, and then we
Mhm.
understand the value behind and the importance of
Yeah.
eventually delegating that. I'm in this networking group here locally to me, and the woman who heads it up, she wrote a book that says it's called Delegate Everything But Sex. So that's her
That's
claim to
funny.
fame.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and she's a very successful multiple business owner.
Mhm.
Like she runs multiple things and is just on fire with her things and very
Mhm.
successful. So delegation, I think anybody who, is successful delegates a lot, quite a
Right.
bit. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that brings up a point where success to me is an individual thing,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
So what you might deem successful is different than what I might deem successful,
Sure.
and that's the beauty of being like an entrepreneur, right? Like I can choose to, maybe my happy place might just be me and my brother, or maybe just me by myself, just going in
Mm-hmm,
and just doing one job at a time and just hanging out,
mm-hmm.
and maybe that's all I want. Like try to be like a little low stress, maybe would be a way of wording that, but or I could be a company that has doing all these giant jobs on the skyscrapers in Manhattan, right? It's like everyone's different, so it's like whatever makes you happy. But
Yeah.
and I think this is something I learned from the podcast, right? Is if you don't know where you want to be, how will you know how to get there?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I heard this the other day where it's like, look, if I want to be, I'm just going to use this as an example, like if I want to have $1 million business,
Mm-hmm.
well, I need to first know that that's what I want, right? And then I need to know where am I currently, so that way I can build the roadmap to get there. You want to
Yeah.
figure out where you want, and then reverse engineer it. So like some might say, and don't just throw out that $1 million business, right? Like $1 million business might not be what you need to get what you want,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense, right? So a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Activity, a good activity that you could do would be to have a night where you just sit down, or day, whatever, and write down your dream life. Like
Mm-hmm.
what is success to you? Write it down. Is it having a nice little small house with like an acre of property? Is it having and like the dog, the cat, and the spouse or whatever? Is that what's happy to you? Or
Mm-hmm.
do you want to have a $500,000 house, and then a vacation home down by the beach, and things of that nature? Like it's different for everybody, but this is supposed to be a fun thing, right? So write down all these things that you want,
Mm-hmm.
figure out what that costs, go on Zillow, go, hey, you know what, that house that is to me is perfect costs X number of dollars, and what's the mortgage payment on something like that? Okay, so that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of vehicles do you want? Do you want to have, are you happy with just having like a nice used vehicle, or do you want to have like a new vehicle every year? Like whatever it is, it's okay. You can have, if you say, hey, I want a yacht, what's a yacht cost? Figure it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then figure out what it costs to live that lifestyle. Do you want to go on vacation once or twice a year? What do those vacations cost? Are you flying first class? You flying economy, right? Are you going international, or are you just taking a road trip with some friends and family or something?
Mm-hmm.
Figure that out. I think that to me was something like very eye opening once I sat down and did that. Um, because like I don't need all that fancy stuff to be happy. I'm not that type of person. And so once I sat down, and in fact, I'm going to be doing it again. In fact, I have plans. It's funny we're talking about this because this weekend I have plans to sit down with my fiance and like go over it again. It's good to redo these things every once in a while. And we're just going to sit and we're going to dream and be like, hey, what do we want in the future? What does our dream life cost? And then the thing is, like, once you figure out, let's just say your dream life costs $200,000 a year. Let's use it as a round number. You don't need $1 million business to make $200,000 a year. You know, if you're it depends on where you are, right? You know, everything's different. Like I'm in New Jersey. It was super high cost of living around here. So like, that's why like maybe some of these numbers sound massive to people around here. That's like, you know, you're living comfortably, really, you know? But like for $200,000 a year, you could get away with like a well-run like $600,000 business. In fact, even you could even do less than that, really, if you're really trying to keep it small. Like if you want to do everything, you could probably do that with like a $300,000 or $400,000 business. You could make that much money. But once you figure out what you want to, what it would cost for you to live your ideal life, reverse engineer it, then you can figure out, okay, what's your average job cost? And that's a simple one to figure out. Like, look at how many jobs did you do last year? How much money did you make last year? If let's say you made $100,000 and you did 10 jobs, well, then each job is your average job cost is $10,000 per job, right? So take your average job cost, and then you have to just figure out how many, you have to know a couple things. You have to figure out how many leads it takes, and then like what's your closing rate, and all these things. You have to track your numbers, right? So this is all like the business stuff now, like figuring out and being able to reverse engineer, so you can figure out how many leads would it take for me to make that, we'll just say, $100,000, right? And then I think I think doing that, like I wish I did that like when I first started, because it would really give me a better roadmap on like how to get and what's important. Like what everyone was talking about, tracking numbers and like doing all these different things, but for a small tile company, as long as you're not trying to get massive, like you don't need to track a lot. What do your jobs cost you to install? What's your overhead? Everybody has overhead. You have insurance. I hope you have insurance at least, a bare minimum website, stuff like that. That's overhead. Your owner salary is overhead. We don't have to get into the nitty gritty of all that, but track how many leads you get regularly. Every time someone calls you, that's a lead, and then how often are you closing those leads? Do you close 1 in 10, 1 in 5, 1 in 3, and figure out what that closing percentage is? And you can kind of, with those basic numbers, you can really get yourself so far ahead of people, because most people aren't listening to these podcasts, much less thinking about these numbers and how to build the life they want and doing these little practices and activities.
Yeah. These are great. These are fantastic exercises to do. I love it. I love that you're talking about this, Dan. The one really simple one, is the number of jobs, divided by the revenue divided by the number of jobs, to figure out your average job cost, and then see if you can beat it. Say, all right, I'm gonna beat this next year. When I did that, it was really eye opening because I raised my prices and I did less jobs, but I made more money. And it's perfect. It was like, that's what you want. You want to be doing less work, less liability out there for more money,
Exactly. Make a game out of it. Like you said, try to beat your score, and that's where the whole, for me, like the panels come in, because I'm able to increase my average job size. But I'm also able to reduce the average job time, like time spent on a job, right? Because for us, like I'm not the fastest person, but typically a shower replacement, if I'm doing normal tile, can take like 2 weeks, week and a half to 2, depending on a lot of different variables. That's, but if I could do it in, 3 to 5 days with slabs versus 2, I'm cutting the amount of time I'm on a job in half, and I'm increasing the average job cost. That's how you're able to like double or triple your annual revenue, with the same number of people. Create more overhead for yourself.
I love it. And the exercise of, imagining your future life, where do you want to end up? no one ever told me to do that when I was younger. Like I
Hmm.
never heard that, and up until recently, really. And I'm like in my early 40s. I'm 42, and like just a
Yeah.
couple years ago, I was talking to maybe a life coach or a business coach, and he was like, "Well, where do you want to go? Like, what do you want to be doing?" I was like, "I don't know." He's like, "Well, that's a problem." He's like,
Hmm.
that's your problem. That's why you're flailing in life and kind of like all over the place because you haven't given yourself a direction at all. And recently, I've been really studying this book called. Let me just grab the book name. Um, it's called Psycho Cybernetics.
I'm gonna write
Psycho
that down.
Cybernetics. I'll put it by Maxwell Maltz is the
Okay.
author. Um, and it talks about changing your life, changing your mind, changing your brain, um, and how people can, really. Oh, I push play.
Yeah.
um, and it talks a lot about this type of stuff where if you have a goal in mind, one of the things you can do is just visualize that goal and you don't have to know every single step of the way. You don't have to know all the steps to get there. Your brain will actually figure it out for you as
Hmm.
you go, but you got to have the goal. You got to
Yeah.
have the goal. and
Exactly.
then and otherwise you won't. And it sounds so silly, but I mean, I think a lot of us have this kind of little issue or this little you know thing where we don't really envision our lives. We're just kind of plug and play, kind of
Hmm.
as NPCs. We're just
Yeah. Yeah.
plugged into the game, like
Yeah.
just
I think.
doing what we're told.
Yeah, I think I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but something that I heard once that kind of stuck with me in regards to this is, imagine getting on a cruise ship. Oh, you want to go
Mm,
for a cruise? That's, you starting your company. Where is it going? Like if it doesn't have a destination, how's it going to know how to get there?
sure.
If
Yeah.
you're just out there just doing stuff with no intent, like you never know when you've arrived. You also never know like how to get where you're going. You never, and so and a lot of us, myself included, like I was doing that for a while, and then I kept listening,
Mm,
and I read a lot. Like I wake up my mornings are sacred to me. I wake up every single morning, and I sit and I drink coffee and I read, and I do not open my phone for a bare minimum half hour, if not 45 minutes. I just sit and I
yeah.
read and I drink coffee, and usually it's almost always either like some sort of self-help business or like self-improvement style book. Like that book that you just mentioned is going on my list,
Yeah.
and I will be reading it very soon. The one I'm reading right now is actually 7 Habits for Highly Effective People.
Great book. Yeah.
And I can't recommend it enough. I think one of the you know one of the biggest parts of this whole thing people always talk about is just success starts in your mind,
Hmm. Hmm.
and just having the right mindset, and then also like, what I don't what's the other one? Oh, so I don't know, I forget who it is that said it, but um he basically said, you don't try to make $1 million for the money. You make $1 million for the person you have to be to make $1 million.
Hmm.
Like once again, like I know I butchered it, but it's basically just the person I was, or even am right now, is not going to be making $1 million a year. And like,
Hmm.
not that I'm trying to make that much money. It's just, once again, just an example. But um, if that's what I was going for, I'd be almost more excited to see the person I become
Hmm.
that is capable of
Yeah.
making $1 million a year, because I'm not that person right now.
Right.
Like but what do you have to do? Who do you have to become? Like, how do you have to change your mindset to do those things? And once again, that could be $1 million a year. That could be $100,000 a year. That could be 50.
Yeah.
What is it that makes you happy? What
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
you successful? Like some people might be happy, working 2 months a year
Hmm. Hmm.
and just, doing whatever the heck they want after that. And you can do that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
you can do that, but those 2 months you might have to, put in some work, or just figure out like what do I need to produce in those 2 months to afford me to be able to take the rest of those 10 months off.
Hmm.
And that's the fun game of life. Like there's no rules really. I mean, follow the law, but like,
Yeah. Yeah. We create our own reality. in
Yeah.
such a real way. It's really wild. And I know what you're saying, is you have to, act like that person. You have to dress like that person. You have to talk like that person
Hmm.
before you'll ever, have the money or
Right.
become, it's just like, just start, just
Hmm.
start being that person that you want to become.
Exactly.
And you will become that person. So
Was it fake it till you make it?
that's the
No,
old saying
it's
for
it's
sure.
real,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be respectful of your time and everything. We're coming up on an hour. I did want to touch on one more subject real quick,
Hmm.
if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Communication. You mentioned, you want to talk about communication, how it's changed your business, how it's helped your life.
Hmm.
Lay it on us, brother.
Okay. So, just like all these other things, I can just ramble on and on. But what I'm going to try to do is touch on some key points here. So, I think just in business and in life in general, communication is like the cornerstone of of so much. If you are a good communicator, it's just going to put you so far ahead in whatever, once again, whatever that means to you.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'll use as maybe as an example, let's say you're on a job, right, and something starts to go wrong, and you let's play it out a few different ways. Like, okay, let's just say you're on a job, you're doing some tile work, and the tile you're cutting is just not cutting right. It's giving you an issue, and you can't cut it. Now, you could choose to, I don't know, not say anything to the client or maybe the contractor you're working with, and just kind of grit through and kind of go. Maybe you install some of those ones that you shouldn't have, and things of that nature. And then guess what? When that job's over, you might be low on time, or maybe it runs on longer. And people get mad and upset if you don't say
Mm-hmm.
anything. But if you choose to in the beginning go, hey, you know what? Hey guys, this tile's giving me a big issue right now. Like, I'm trying to cut it. I'm doing all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
People are understanding. People, you can, if you don't communicate, how does anyone know? And then people are going to start to um, develop their own like paradigms in their head as to what's going on. They think, oh, well, this person might be, they're just slow. They don't know what they're doing. They can't cut this.
Mm-hmm.
They're horrible at what they're doing. Like, they don't, blah 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 blah. I can go on from there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but since I have personally made getting better at communication a goal of mine, and I've like improved on it.
Mm-hmm.
I have been complimented by so many of my clients.
Mm-hmm.
They love when you go, we have an appointment at 3:30 and at 2 o'clock, and going, hey, just want to confirm that our appointment's still available, that,
Yeah.
nothing has come up for you. And then, they go, oh yeah, it has. Or, sometimes life comes up, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
if I'm running late somewhere, right? If which I'm a very busy person, sometimes I'm running late to a meeting, we'll say with a client, like I had to go do an estimate. Even if it's 3 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
I send a text, hey, just so you know, I hit some traffic. My GPS says I will be there at 3:33 instead of 3:30.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So you didn't have to do that. Thank you. And I get that people are just so respectful and
Mm-hmm.
grateful for that. But your business will run smoother. Like, if you have good communication between your clients, and then also with any employees you may have.
Mm-hmm.
No one likes to be left in the dark. It's better to over communicate than under communicate. Um, and I'll say, like, communicate, like that first phone call, when people first reach out and talk to me. I schedule like a 15-20 minute phone call with them, and we just talk about their project and what they're looking for, what they want, what are their motives, why do they want to do this project, like what is the reason. And through asking the proper questions and just really listening, a lot of communication is just trying to like listen well and not just talk and blurt out things. Like, listen to what the other person is trying to say,
Mm-hmm.
and then respond, don't react.
Yeah.
And if you can really, people really appreciate being listened to, because it doesn't happen often. Too many people, it's just too common in our society that people like kind of talk at each other,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just trying to get their own point across.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been guilty of this. Like, I remember when I first started going on estimates, and I would just start bringing up like the TCNA guidelines, and their eyes would just gloss over, and they'd be like, I want a shower, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I just want a shower, and but to me, it was so important express like my professionalism, my expertise, and like what I find to be important, but that's not what's important to them. So if you can
Right.
take the time to just shut your dang mouth, and which is if you can't tell, I can talk. So it's one of the hardest things for me. It's been to just learn to STFU, like shut the f up, and
Mm-hmm.
just let these people talk, and then try to really just listen to what they're maybe it's listen to what they're saying, not necessarily the words that are coming out their mouth. They might be talking about an issue with the shower, but maybe their real concern is they see mold, and it's like it's a health thing,
Yeah.
or if they're saying oh, I just want like there to be like a low curb, and your mind goes, oh, like I don't know, you could think of a different reason. Well, the reason might be they're getting older in the house, they don't want a tripping hazard.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like try to read between the lines a little bit and just listen to what people have to say, like learn to communicate. Like it's a skill, it's something you have to learn to do. It's not something we're born with. Some people are better than others from birth, but
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely something I would say. If looking back, if I wish there was any like one thing I wish I like got better at from the beginning was I wish it was communication,
Mm-hmm.
because from there you develop better relationships. You can it just it really helps. Like I said, it's a cornerstone of life, I think, is
Yeah,
inside and out of the business.
absolutely. I agree. Well, I appreciate it, Dan. This has been a fun conversation, as I knew it would be. This hour, I can't believe it's almost been an
I'm
hour
I'm
already.
actually shocked that it's
Went by
already been an
quick.
hour. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, appreciate you coming on, and take care. Tile friends, if you're listening to this, stay positive out there. There's a lot of negative BS out there. Keep your head up. Keep your positivity flowing, and remember you're in business. So by all means, please stay profitable out there, tile friends.
Absolutely.